step forward.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Then and Now podcast. I'm your co-host, Captain Diesel, and I'm joined with my usual co-host, Professor E, King of the Comics, Ethan Murphy, and Lelouch V, the Big Black Muffin. How are y'all doing?
We will start off fine, and then you gotta take it.
Hey, you know, I told you it wasn't going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm decent, man. In a different setup as usual. Felt homesick, so I came to visit my family. You know, my middle sister's birthday is November 5th. My mom's birthday is November 11th. So this weekend they usually kind of celebrate together. So I wanted to make sure I was here.
Felt that. Professor E, how you feeling?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Last night I was with some people, some new friends essentially, and they were talking up this bomb ass barbecue place that had this incredible brisket sandwich. And so now all I want to do is get a massive brisket sandwich, and I'm mad that I'm not eating one right now. But I'm good, man. How you living there, Dev?
I'm good, man. I'm taking recovery day for the most part. Saturday's been just a mental and financial and every way possible for a recovery day. I'm about to record this, probably play some games, read some comics, and then go watch the Laker game with the homie somewhere. We'll find somewhere to go.
Right on.
But y'all, today is a special day. We talked about a lot of different shows, a lot of different things on this channel that are generational, that are very revolutionary in the way that they went about operating. But there's one piece of media in particular that I'm very surprised that we never covered in depth on this series, and that is the Boondocks. We've talked, I think we maybe made references to the Boondocks here and there multiple times throughout the years, and maybe talked about other actors or voice actors that were within the show, but we've never broken down the show. And because very recently the 20th anniversary of the Boondocks has happened, or I think it may be happening soon. I can't remember what the date was exactly.
It's November 5th also.
Yeah.
So it just passed.
This month.
Okay. So we're going to be a little bit behind, but because that, it came and went, we decided, hey, let's sit down and kind of reminisce on our favorite moments of the show and kind of just discuss what we think makes the Boondocks an amazing show. That being said, I want to start off with Otis and kind of give me before we get into like favorite moments, just like what you remember about the Boondocks that made it special to you in particular.
Well, I mean, my first moment and what made it special kind of all lined up in the same thing, and that's just the first episode, man. First time, it's 2005. It's Adult Swim on. I'm watching it. Just probably got past watching, Code Geass and Bleach and whatever usual lineup of stuff. And there's a new show coming out. It's the Boondocks. And it opens up with saying, "Jesus is black. Ronald Reagan was the devil, and the government was responsible for 9/11." And I was just like, completely mind blown because I didn't know that you could say something. Like, first of all, I had never thought about life from those perspectives for anything, right? Like, those are just all new concepts that came to my brain. And then seeing that on television, it's just like, you could say that. And then so it took me down a whole rabbit hole of just learning about quote unquote conspiracy theories and just things about how the world is, the government is, and it just completely opened my eyes to a different almost level of existence. Everything before was just all cookie cutter. I believed what I saw in school and in the history books and the things that were taught to me, and I was like, oh no, there's a greater understanding of the world out there, and this 7-year-old just put my whole brain into perspective. So great kudos to both that moment in that show, and it just kind of feel like it epitomized that thing, but just adding a new spin onto real life events, turning almost like the news into animated comedy. Like I said, that's essentially what it was. All the events that they kind of depicted were just reenactments of things that actually happened in real life. And I just thought that was so revolutionary, and doing it from the Black perspective. It changed my whole thought process. So I can only imagine, how it impacted the rest of me.
Professor, what are your thoughts? How did this show impact you?
Oh shit, yeah. So I mean, y'all know, y'all know already, like how important this show is to me. I'm trying to figure out where to start. Actually, you know what? I'll start actually at the very beginning. Literally, when I was sat down and watching an Adult Swim, and the actual opening, the opening to this show, because it opens up. Y'all remember the theme song? It opens with literally, "I am the stone that the builder refused. I am the visual, the inspiration that made the lady sing the blues. Like I'm the spark that makes the idea makes your idea bright.
The
The same
same
spark that
spark
lights
to
the
light the
dark."
dark
I
so
mean,
that you know your left from your right.
Yeah, it's
And
yeah,
the barrel
exactly.
in the box, the bullet in the gun, in the
And
globe,
it
the
glows
bloody
delicious.
butterfly. I
The
mean,
story has
yeah,
just begun. The problem are what's
literally
to
from
come, and
there, I
I
was
will
like,
remain a
when we
"Holy!"
soldier to the
started to the
wars.
wars,
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
Yeah,
It's the bars. I was like,
yeah.
"What?" But also it was the way that it was done too, because obviously that I know that rapper was just fantastic. But it was just the I was immediately like drawn into it because on Adult Swim, especially at that time, there wasn't any show featuring people like us, made by people like us that was especially at that quality, that level of quality.
Yeah.
It was all legit. I was like, oh my god. And then once obviously in the very first line in the very first episode is what you said, of course, is Huey dropping off, popping off, popping off of that monologue. I think he's actually asleep though. It's a dream he's having. And then Granddad like wakes him up and says, "Hey, are you having a dream about again about like telling off white people?" He's like, yeah. He's like, "Stop doing that." So it's like it's amazingly it's so funny and poignant at the same time. That's the vibe of that show. So yeah, I love it from the very literally from the very beginning, from the opening bars of the OP. I was in, man.
So for me, this show, I got into it probably a little bit later than you guys. I probably got into it on like season 3, maybe 4. Because I didn't initially find it by myself. This was something that my granddad was watching, and he put me on to, which was funny because like when I got older, he was like, "You can't be watching all that cussing and that shit." I'm like, "That's probably should have known." That's how I probably should have known he was starting to get sick because nigga, you introduced me to the show. I would not know what the show was if it wasn't for you. Um, so we sat down there. I watched it with him one day, and I think the first episode I watched was probably I think the itis episode, if I remember right. I think.
Oh yeah, you
Um,
like that. Yeah.
and the show just had a very interesting insight into the Black community and the way we go about saying things and perceive things because it's doing so in a way that I don't think any other show has, or maybe there's been some shows up in like in more recent times that has done this, but because back then there weren't that many Black writers writing shows in general, let alone writing it and then acting it. I think either 100% or like 99% of the writing team and the cast were Black people. So it just felt like a inside joke almost, one of those things of where you would say something and Black people automatically understand it, but for the other people you either know because you're around Black folks or you have to have things under explained to you. Beyond that, I just absolutely adored the voice acting in it because a lot of the cast were people that I grew up watching other different stuff, especially oh my god, I'm blinking on buddy John Witherspoon because I grew up
Oh,
watching the Wayne's Brothers show. So I'm like, I recognize
Mhm.
his voice. So I recognize a lot of voices in this. This show in general is just special. And for it to capture my granddad, who at that point was still pretty old and crotchety, and for him to find that funny, so much to the point to where he's letting his, what I was like 7-year-old grandson watch the show at that point. It was dope to me. And then the older I got is the more I started to kind of break down the media of the show, like the subtle messaging and the other layers that were put into the show because if anything else, there are two things about this show that I found really interesting. One is the fact that this shit is done like the Black Simpsons, with how much it was able to predict things within Black culture and not just the culture, but like in music and the way we perceive things. A lot of it was really beyond its time. Hell, damn near what the I literally remember the chicken episode.
With fried chicken flu.
Yeah, then I
Mhm.
called back to 2020 when the Popeye chicken sandwich came out.
yeah.
And how that's like it is predicted so much shit, either coincidentally or on purpose. And then on top of it, I'm looking at how the show was able to just sneak in certain layers of how do I put this? I guess a sociological framework, just looking at Black people as like a character study of like it looked at us as people and broke a lot of stuff down. So again, there's a lot more to say about it, but I don't want to just take all the reins yet. I want to jump into letting everybody get into. I guess we'll start with a favorite moment from the series. It could be a favorite episode, a particular interaction. What was that thing for you guys? And I guess it goes back to Otis now. If we're going to continue in this this circle we got going on.
Yeah, I blew the clip on that early, but yeah, it's going back to the first moment of the first show. Like, I mean, like thinking about that time, I was about 2005. I'm about 13. I'm pretty much just learning about the JFK assassination and all the conspiracy theories around that. So like, my eyes are starting to open to what kind of like the real world looked like, but just hearing but why would you say what makes you think that Jesus is black? What makes you think that Ronald Reagan is the devil? What why 9/11 was crazy? Why would you think that the government's behind that? So like, I mean, that's still relatively early internet. So I mean, to be on some deep dives through some early YouTube videos, some articles, and I just it showed me the process of learning my own research behind the news that's reported. And I don't know if I would ever actually had that kind of mental awakening without just being so jarred by that in that moment. And honestly, it's almost formed the level of skepticism that I approach everything that I hear with. So much kudos to that moment specifically. Like, I mean, basic but revolutionary. Just to open the show with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a famous line from Huey where he says, believe half of what you hear and none of what you see." I don't think it's his original. I don't think he originally coined that phrase, but he definitely says it in the series. It's kind of like, yeah, that's his whole ethos essentially. And so Huey, of course, he was my boy. I love him to pieces. I know I've told y'all thousands of times. I don't know if I said on this show, but how I literally the lead character in my flagship comic was directly based off of Huey. So much so that I literally just sent an actual image of him to my artist and said, "Make a 25-year-old version of this character," and he goes, "Done." And spoiler alert, I actually did meet Carl Jones, talk to Carl Jones, and I told him showed him the character, and he goes, "Yep, that's it." He validated it too, so it was cool. But my personal favorite moment from the Boondocks is kind of a different one. So one that the Boondocks did for me was that it very much was because it was an animated series. There were definitely shows that touched on this kind of stuff that were much more in line with Black culture. Obviously, the Chappelle Show came out before this and or around the same time actually as this because Charlie Murphy was on both shows at the same time. So it was kind of funny. But as far as an animated show that was basically like an anime that was featuring Black people, that was extremely rare. And so much so that it had plenty of anime influences and anime things in the series itself. It's a bizarre pull, but one of my favorite moments actually was from when Uncle Ruckus, the part where Huey and Riley go to see a movie at the movie theater, and Uncle Ruckus, for whatever reason, is literally an usher, and and he just and I think Huey and Riley are like theater hopping or something, or Uncle Ruckus believes they are because they're Black and he hates Black folk, and so Huey has to battle Uncle Ruckus with like a broom handle essentially, and the music that plays, I still have that track on my workout playlist because it's so bad, it's so badass. I love it to pieces. I just love seeing Huey because Huey is the easily the smartest guy in every room, but also he's a badass as far as a fighter too. And so I just love watching Huey actually throw hands for the first time ever with Uncle Ruckus with a badass soundtrack playing in a movie theater. It was just it's the first thing I always think about from that show.
I think for me, because funny enough, Uncle Ruckus is involved in this, but this particular episode was the one where you finally get the backstory on Ruckus and understand why he is the way he is. And this story for me really helped me to expand my thought process on even before I knew I wanted to be a writer, but just like understanding characters and character writing. Because up until this point, Uncle Ruckus is just this extreme caricature of somebody that we all know. He's this extreme version of this self-hating Black person. And for the longest time, you just assume that's just what it is. That's why he is the way he is. And they never really dive deep into why his mind is set the way he is. You get these really out there reasonings where he feels like he has vitiligo and he was born a white man and he just looks like this, and you just expect, oh, he's just crazy. But when you really get to sit down and look at things from how he became the way he is, it really made me appreciate the writing of how to add depth to a character. And then two, it really made me look at people in the world a lot further, especially in regards to racism and why racists are the way they are. Because again, on the outside looking in, it looks crazy that you would just look at somebody and believe they're inferior to you. But when you're a person who is in a really shitty condition and you have an abusive father, and the only guiding light and kindness you get is your mother telling you that you're a white man and she's putting white people up to be this beautiful thing that you should aspire to be to, and that you're actually that you're this chosen thing. So you should have more self-esteem in yourself because you have your father constantly bagging on you and making you seem like you're a shitty person. It's interesting on how that works out. He's racist and yes, he's self-hating, but he has all these things that attribute into that. And I think that I took that at that point in time as like McGruder and other writers like making it a point to not just like, yeah, we can say fuck all races for obvious reasons, but to really look at the sociological framework of why people become who they become and why people and cultures do what they do. That, and then especially the episode with Riley where he met Bob Ross, I guess, or the equivalent of Bob Ross.
Yeah.
Another thing where like we see another character who on the outside looking in is this extreme caricature of young juveniles who just do crazy shit and listen to music that's supposed to rot their brains or whatever it may be. But you showcase that there are layers to Riley and he's an artist and that he does things like the kindness of his heart because he has that message there. Even again, there's just so many episodes where you take all the jokes from the entire show and then just show a little bit of humanity in each of these characters. And it really makes you appreciate them and love them even more.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing is they actually are characters, not caricatures. Even Uncle Ruckus, for all his crazy madness, there still is a character there. And part of it is, what's interesting too, is how the original comic strip, the Boondocks, Uncle Ruckus wasn't there. He was an original character created for the show, and I think he was meant to offset Tom DuBois a bit. I believe that's what it was. But yeah, Uncle Ruckus, there's so much there. I mean, he is a Uncle Ruckus. There's a famous, maybe my favorite line in all of this series is a line where someone says to him, like a reporter asks Uncle Ruckus, like, "Is it true that you hate black people?" And he goes, "Well, I wouldn't exactly call them people." And it's just that line is so like, it just says so much. It's so funny. In the behind the scenes stuff they show, because it has McGruder and Charlie Murphy and a whole bunch of other comedians, Cedric Yarborough and all of them, writing the scenes for Uncle Ruckus and everything. And they literally try to out mean each other as far as the things that he says. And the thing is, they're dying laughing themselves as they're writing it. So it's not, it's almost, he's meant to be so over the top and outlandish. But at the same time, because you have that kind of a character in the show, it's a lot, it challenges your thoughts on race, but also it gives you kind of an escape too. Like it is how silly is this shit this guy's saying, but also yeah, be aware of this mindset too. So it's something. It's wild.
Yeah, I mean, truly understanding like exactly how much depth goes into like the scenarios that they build and why they chose to put what characters in what space. I think that's one of the more masterful pieces of the series. Like, along with being caricatures and being caricatures displayed as characters that actually get build up and reasoning behind who they are, and then put into scenarios where you see how they would react in those moments, like in those, seeing Tom in jail and like understanding like the fear behind that for him specifically, even though that he's a prosecutor himself, like just those little tie-ins really just like are the pieces that truly elevate Boondocks from a lot of other. It's just like another level of intentionality behind everything that they do.
Yeah, and it is I mean, it's so. It definitely is aware. It's always aware of what it's doing. It's never just doing something for shock value. It's never just having fun. It has a very deliberate message behind what it's doing, but also at the same time, it's very funny. To have that kind of deft hand like that is uncommon. I mean, that's why the show was as popular as it was, as successful as it was.
It's that in the commentary. And Otis spoke about it earlier on, but the commentary for this show was so interesting. You have moments like I think we've seen Carl Jones probably tell the story a million times with like the Usher episode and that being something that actually happened to him. So you have like episodes that are probably based on real events that happened to the writers or the creators. But when I'm looking at like the things that happen in media, like the LaMilton episode, where like, all right, you had this kid who did this wild thing at Walmart and like beat his grandma up, but then they just expanded that moment into him being Michael Myers essentially. So like the way they expand on a small moment is fucking. It's almost like a sketch comedy, but they just put so
Yeah.
much wittiness and presentation on it, and then combine it with the art style for it. It's just it's really masterful in that they do that.
Yeah.
Like I aspire to like in writing like there's one thing for me to write a character and write like dramas or anything like that, but writing comedy is so difficult and requires a particular hand to do so, and especially to understand your audience. Because as much as this is a show that's funny to probably everybody, it's particularly funny to Black people because we understand the messaging and the language that's trying to get pushed across. You have some episodes where they try to like appeal to different people because they're looking at different cultures and whatnot, like maybe like the dodgeball episode where you have the Chinese characters come in. But for the most part, everything's very Black centered in the humor, even to the point where they're getting all these Black celebrities to come in and do stuff. And that's probably another thing that I found very interesting is that they're able to get top notch comedic performances out of regular celebrities. Because I've seen, me and Otis have played 2K. I've watched NBA players try to read off a script for a video game in 2K. Like, I remember trying to hear Dion Waiters and Al Jefferson read off a script that was simple, like keep going, Rook. I know it's tough out there. So for them to go grab Lil Wayne and be like, hey, we getting a comedic fucking stroke of genius from Lil Wayne here, or we're gonna grab Sam Jackson, who's somebody who's just like unintentionally funny, but now we're gonna have him just do Sam Jackson shit and make this 100% funny. So they just got I'm not gonna say they got random celebrities, but it felt like at times they would get like random celebrities and get top-notch comedic performances out of that. Now I don't know how much of that is these celebrities just being genuinely talented and doing that, and how much of that is their direction in the writing and how they're directing them within the writer's room or the recording booth.
Yeah, I mean, because obviously, anytime you deal with athletes are kind of notoriously bad actors. It is. We all know this. It is what it is. There are some exceptions on some level. Obviously, wrestlers, WWE wrestlers, or what have you, or AEW, they are basically performers, so they know how to handle it better than most. But straight up, like basketball players or whatever, that's like, ooh, that's.
You didn't enjoy Mike in Space Jam? You don't think he?
I don't even. It's one of those things where I'm not even sure if Space Jam 1 or Space Jam 2 had worse acting from the lead performer. But yeah, yeah. But the actual like writing and stuff like that's literally, you said that you brought up a good point, Deb, how it seems like it's really good, almost like sketch comedy, because it has a lot of like Cedric Yarbrough and Gary Anthony Williams, Charlie Murphy too. The people that were in the writers' rooms actually do sketch comedy, or they actually were in improv groups out here in LA, like Groundlings and Second City, that type of stuff. So they actually know their stuff. They know how to hit these beats really, really well. And also because Gary Anthony Williams and Cedric Yarbrough were both the writers for a lot of their characters' moments, and they actually were the performers. They know how to hit the beats that much better. They're even trying to do it. Back in the day, they were trying to do that Uncle Ruckus with a live action movie. They're trying to do a Kickstarter campaign for that with Gary Anthony Williams as Uncle Ruckus. So I mean, it's literally having comedic geniuses that know how to do. They know their craft. So it's a rare commodity. And Sam Jackson's amazing. He's always been the GOAT. That's different there. But the thing about it was he portrayed Wensler's nephew,
his nephew's friend. His nephew's friend, yeah.
Right. And the whole thing was they were meant to be like a play on with Bush and Cheney. But it was just it was just bizarre how like he was able to portray a random ass white character, and they did so well.
They're not unknowns, and they're unknown unknowns.
The evidence of absence is not the absence of evidence.
Now, the thing I would like, I kind of want to commentate on here and get your guys' perspective on is a lot of the political commentary as well. Because as much as this show is a comedy, as much as it is a sociological presentation of Black culture, it very much so spoke on a lot of serious matters within the country, like being politics in particular. The biggest episode I can think of is being the Dick Riding Obama episode. Where
that's one of my favorite moments, actually.
You're seeing something that happened in real life. Granted, there are some people have very valid reasons to dislike some of the things that Obama did in office, and on the other side, there are reasons to love Obama. I think for most people, most Black people especially, like we lean more on the love than the hate side. There's things to criticize, like any president, but the thing that I found so funny about that is looking at somebody like Granddad, who went through literal segregation and went through the civil rights movement, So you're showing somebody like him, hey, you're about to get a black president. You fought for rights and to drink out of a same water fountain as somebody else. Now you're about to get a black president. And you saw how much he dick rode Obama up until the point they realized, hey, he can't just give you everything you want. He can't save black people because it's just not the way the system works. And seeing how quickly a lot of people turned on Obama, or at least in particular, Granddad turned on him, because when you have that reality of how the political system works and that commentary there, it felt like a way to break down and explain certain political policies and the way politics work to the layman, essentially. And it was really interesting how they did that, because they did it in a comedic way, but also really explained it in a very like broken down way without it feeling pretentious, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, essentially saying curb your enthusiasm to a degree. Like, I mean, talking about 400 years worth of systemic racism can't be undone in an 8-year span. I mean, that's just not how systemic racism works, you know. But understanding that, like, you know, like that is something to be positive about, because I mean, it is a similar notion, but like, yeah, like realistically, like the way people were just super gung ho for him to just like end like all civil rights era in one go.
Fix the world.
Yeah, just like, yeah, fix racism right here. Like people were actually calling it a post-racial America after he was elected. Like that was a term that people used, and they're just like, that's not how that works. Redlining,
it's still like, Tuesday. It's still Tuesday,
right? But I'm just seeing the willingness that they had to like actually talk about that, not like, you know, kind of toy around it with it, and just like, you know, kind of like how a lot of other people were just doing, just like, you know, just saying like, oh, he's 100% positive. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Obama was a negative in any way, but like just the fact that they were bold enough to be like realistic about the view of it, instead of just being like, oh yeah, he's a black president, everything's great now. You know,
yeah,
I respected them that about them. And then isn't Carl Jones the voice of Magnificent? Isn't he the one?
He's
like,
yeah.
So yeah, like he I'm curious to know the process that he went through to actually make the song there, because I'm sure there had to be some pushback somewhere from somebody, but I'm actually happy that it came out, because it was one of the funniest moments in the entire series.
Yeah, I mean, that's literally the point of comedy. That's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to challenge you. It's supposed to, you know, push boundaries, but it's also supposed to inform. You know, and it's supposed to be done, like you said, Dev, in a palatable way to the lay person, or just the people who are uninitiated, or you know, kind of ignorant about these type of things. So it's it's so much. Also, getting into politics, kind of in a slightly different vein, was when they had one of my favorite episodes, which is very controversial at the time, because I think it was season 1 as well, with the Return of the King. It was with Martin Luther King Jr.
Oh my god!
And the line, the notorious line was, "Will you ignorant niggas please shut the hell up?" That it just having him pop off, as far as like, you ain't, and it's because it was, again, like you're saying, he's like, y'all, I fought all kinds of battles, you know, during the civil rights movement to make for progress, and y'all are wasting the shit out of it doing nonsense. Like, what the fuck is going on? It's like, yeah. I mean, then people were saying, how dare you portray Dr. King as being upset and saying these type of things? But it's like, yeah, on some level, man, if that dude was here and saw what's going on, he'd probably be like, what the hell's going on? What happened? So it's just the idea of, again, challenging us through humor in a really unique way, and they did a really good job of that.
That's something I heard all the time. Like, what would Dr. King think about this shit? Huh? What do you think he would like this? And then they give us a whole episode of what he would think about all the ignorant shit that we would do. Granted, sometimes, you know, little sophisticated ignorance is there, is nice every now and then, but that shit was just funny to me, man.
Sophisticated ignorance.
Yeah. One thing I do feel like they slightly missed the mark on with that episode is, like, I mean, he would have been upset, but one of the biggest things, like, you know, like the fact that he fought so hard to try to get equity, and not just like, you know, the civil rights movement as a whole, and like, you know, rights for black people, but like jobs and like job security right now in this climate currently
Yeah,
Enough said. No, enough said. Right.
yeah, man.
I mean, so the fact that we so heavily missed the mark on what he was actually fighting. I mean, of course, the civil rights and making sure that black people and white people could all live together semi-harmoniously was like one of the goals, but it was to actually get like to a place of economic growth for everyone.
Mhm.
And to this day, we still haven't actually like worked towards accurately doing that. And honestly, we're even further away from it now with like, with DEI being pulled back and
Mm.
people viewing that as like a trigger road for
Yeah.
all types of things, the woke agenda. Like he'd be pretty pissed off at that. And that fact that we've let that roll back. But seeing how people celebrate, I don't know if he would be too. Nah, he might not like BET. He might not like BET.
He's not. I mean,
No,
that's the whole
he's
thing.
not.
I think they talked about it in that episode about how much he hated
Yeah.
BET.
Yeah, they did.
Mhm.
They
Yeah.
definitely did. They talked about it a couple of times actually. They had BET a few times. Yeah, yeah. It's. I mean, because it is. You're 100% right that it's meant to be almost polarizing in the way that they have these because when they're portraying obviously Dr. Dr. King, it's going to be upsetting to some people. Having him say negative things about people is going to happen, but there is a very much we all know this in our community. There are a lot of black folks that love to feel entitled that they do something right, and
Mhm.
those that feel the most entitled are the laziest. And so the ones that are actually the ones of us that are actually out there doing stuff have to work that much harder because of those of us that aren't. So it's to call us out on that. It's fair. I mean, it is what it is.
It challenges us as people, and I think that goes back to putting that magnifying glass on the culture as a whole, and questioning a lot of the stupid shit we do, like the fact we're still dealing with the whole idea of black men versus black women, or what do you bring to the table, like the same red pill arguments for it's a thing back and forth. Like I swear to God, I pray that we will be able to have the show come back at some point in the future, because shit like that would be an amazing episode. If we just had a whole episode over the men versus women shit and what do you bring to the table shit, or any of the content creator shit. I can imagine an episode where it's like a bunch of niggas live streaming in Walmart and that being a whole issue. There's just so much commentary that you can get out of all the things that's been going on, like just the last 5 years alone. But another thing I wanted to kind of harp in on is a little small thing that you Otis brought up is the idea of the details of the show, and that detail being the music. The fact that we were able to have Thugnificent, Gangstalicious, I think there are other people that made like whole songs. It felt like, and if they weren't whole songs, they were so well put together to the point you would think it was a whole song. I know there's. I remember looking it up a couple years ago when I rewatched the show, like trying to find the whole song of F Granddad or Stompin' the Nuts or Booty Butt Cheeks, and literally realized, oh, it's not a whole song. They only made like 30-second snippet of this song, but because it was so well put together, I think the F Granddad was actually a whole song. They finished out because they had a whole verse from Snoop Dogg,
and Busta Rhymes.
I really want to speak to Carl and really just like hear the process of like them writing these songs out, because they felt like songs that like you would actually hear, but then there's also that comedy there, like the Sergeant Gut and shit they did. Obviously was a play on Soulja Boy, and that being the whole thing. Again, there is so many pieces of music from that show that everybody remembers, and I will hear people just like randomly fucking sing at random. Don't trust them new niggas over there. I damn near thought that was an actual Negro spiritual for a lot of my life until I got older. I swear to God, I thought that was him. Oh my God, my bad. But yeah, music wise, that was I still sing those songs, and we talk about those today.
So on the slight tangent, fellas, do you think that we deserve like a reunion of like the full cast, and to like really get a chance to like have everybody sit down and talk about the process of making this show?
I would love that, because I don't think we've gotten like a behind the scene. I think I've seen like certain behind the scenes clips of like of Aaron like discussing some of his upbringing forward, or even there's some background footage showing like certain actors in the booth, or even the process that Regina King went through. But I feel like we didn't get enough of a breakdown on like the writing aspect of things. We got some of the like recording process, but not the actual construction of each episode and the thought process behind that, or even the like character creation.
Yeah, and so back in the day when I had the DVD
Mhm.
I know they were trying to do something like that. One of our people, or one of our friend of the show and friends, and that we know, Chris Miles, was trying to get that organized. Part of the issue is, of course, that people know that Aaron McGruder and Carl Jones had a bit of a falling out, essentially. So to get both of them together on a panel would be a bit difficult. It's not impossible. And
Mhm.
they've had people at, like, I think, Regina King, and some of them were Gary Anthony Williams and whatnot, where they were at like different conventions together. But to get the full team back together would be a little more challenging.
I'd hope that they be able to overcome a lot of those differences, especially now with the passing of John Witherspoon.
Yeah.
Like an integral member of the cast, like being able to kind of like, hey, let's put again. I don't know to the extent of what the disagreements were or even how heated things got, but I'd like to think that it's not bad enough to where you can't put that shit to the side. Like 10 years, it feels like later. Well, yeah, literally over 10 years. I think the last episode was like what 2014 or somewhere around there, when they like finished
I
it.
think it's
I think it was before that.
Yeah, it is way. It's sort of than that. Let's see here. Let's see. That's it's ways ago. Let's see here.
It's only made 4 seasons. This came out in 2005. It was probably done in like 09, maybe 2010.
Hold on.
Let's see. I think it's still done
It said
in
it ran
like.
through, it said, yeah, on IMDb it says it ran through 2014.
No, so it started. It started in 2005.
Yeah.
So
Because I think let me go to the fourth season. So the
I know it
last
did.
episode,
The fourth
no, yeah,
season came out
2000, I think
years
it's
later.
2014 is the last season.
yeah, the last episode was June 23rd, 2014. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because I remember that being a
2014.
thing of like me not loving the season because they like tried to bring back a lot of the like what State Meter having clones and that being a whole thing now. And they tried to run back a lot of the stuff that they had already done, but it just didn't hit the same. I think they did it with Siri and like iPhones and shit like that. It was just the
Yeah.
Kardashians. They took a step at the Kardashians. Again, I don't know at that point like what the writing team looked like, but you could tell it just wasn't the same as it used to be in that fourth season.
Tried to do the Breaking Bad, but with hair gel.
Yeah.
I've actually never seen the fourth season because I know they left. That the folks I liked left, so I never even watched it. I have no idea what even happens.
It's cool, but it's kind of forgettable if I'm being honest with you. If the last season is just it felt like they were cashing in the check at that point.
Yeah, I mean, they tried with some, like, I mean, the Pretty Boy Flizzy, or they could have Michael B play Chris Brown, like that was a thing. But yeah, it felt like they were trying to kind of recapture the essence of the original, but it's hard to do when you're missing integral parts built in that process.
At that point, I'd be curious to know. Again, I just want to know what the process looks like. So hopefully we can get that. I know you talked about them potentially getting the reunion done soon, but hopefully that happens because I would love just to hear the writing process or for behind each episode. We've heard it in snippets. I remember again we've seen Carl give the Usher story before. We've heard certain characters or certain actors discuss how they prepare for roles, especially with Regina King and how she ended up doing both characters. But again, it's maybe just some nerd shit that maybe I and us are people that are like us that would care about some of that stuff. But I think it'd be really great, especially for aspiring writers that are really fans of this show and understand where this show has its place in not just history but the culture as a whole.
Yeah. I mean, you brought up Sting Meter earlier. One of the most famous episodes, of course, is the white shoes where Stink Meter
Oh man, the
steps
nigga
all
moment.
up over. Yeah. So
that was so revolutionary to me at the time because it's something that everybody understood and went through, but there was no name behind it. And now to this day, I hear people talk about a nigga moment and people just know what it is, or black people just know what it is. We have a name for this thing now. They gave terminology to things in black culture that never were defined before. That shit was fucking genius.
Yeah, I mean, it's real. It's you're at that point where you cross. Normally, if you were by yourself and that small thing happened, you would probably just look it over, whatever, go the other way. But like if like people that you know are around, they start chiming in, that's what really makes a nigga moment into a real nigga moment. So yeah, like to actually like characterize that and make that as a term that still goes through to this day. I mean, kudos, man. Just
Cause I remember hearing like other term, like I think the term like putting a battery in somebody's back and shit. Like you have like little things here for it that may be regional, but like nigga moment is just like across the board from coast to coast. We all understand what that is.
Yeah, and it's specific again to Black culture as far as I mean, again with the idea of stomping on some dude's shoes, especially his white Air Force Ones or what have you. It's like, yo, that is whoo biggest foul ever.
he was literally singing about his new shoes.
That shit was so good. I think to your point, as far as that being a Black thing too, I can't think of too many pieces of media, if at all, to where they put out something that's based in Black culture and it becomes popular and everybody knows about it in the scene, and it doesn't get like absorbed by white people and they don't just like take it and run with it. Like it's one of the only things I can think of to where it still is very much so like not niche because it's still really big, but like only like truly understandable through the Black lens and like the Black experience.
Yeah,
like,
it'd be hard for white folks to be like, if white folks try to commandeer or culturally appropriate a nigga moment, it's like, whoa, that's a
because we've seen it other shit. We've seen it with like clothing, with music and rap music. We've seen it in every other aspect of Black culture, from the dancing. They're able to just like take that and copy it. But like hell, even to an extent with like certain comedy, because you have certain comedians who when I say his name, I'm not saying that he just steals things, but like somebody like Gary Owens, where like you have it to where he does a pretty good job of like being Black adjacent or like telling these Black stories adjacently because he's married to a Black woman. And even then, he's only able to do that because he's legit around Black people all the time. But even he, I feel like, would struggle to write a show like this that's so unique to the Black experience. Like
he would.
That's the
that's the point. He wouldn't do that because he knows, like, that's not. He knows where his boundaries are. Yeah, but still.
Yeah. And I'm surprised because I know people will try. That's my thing. We've seen it tried in every other form and medium, but this is the one medium and the one type of thing like you just haven't seen recreated by anybody else. Like this, the Boondocks has a very specific fingerprint in animation and TV history that I just have not seen replicated ever.
Well, so we had to bring up some part too. There are some things they really couldn't or probably shouldn't replicate now. Big thing is Riley's. This is not reflection of the actual writers or creators, but Riley's personality is he is very he's very outwardly homophobic, which wouldn't play well now. He one of his biggest catchphrases is, I'm quoting Riley. His biggest catchphrase is y'all niggas gay or something like that. Like you couldn't really just pop off of that as casually as he does.
But I love how they played on that with like the Gangstalicious stuff, where like he was clearly dressing very right.
Unapologetically.
Yeah, like
I think like because I'm trying to think about how they would write it today, because obviously it'd be a situation where if they were to continue the show and bring it back, you would probably age them up a little bit and they would have them develop a little bit. Or maybe you just go the other route and just say, oh, Riley still hasn't changed, because you still have, for as long ago as that was, there's still plenty of Rileys that are around today that still think the exact same way. The Black community
we all know
homophobia is still around. But I would love for them to play on the idea of that homophobia and like how, because they talked about it with rappers, how it's like, yeah, y'all are really homophobic, but y'all rappers are doing really gay stuff. But now, me being an NBA fan, seeing men that are probably like give themselves the title of a bronzexual, or like seeing how like people will defend certain athletes to the point of like acting like they know them or like they're in their family. I'm like, it's certain little shit like that. I'm like, you can still like get some of that off, but also age Riley up a little bit where I think it will fit. Hey, if y'all ever bring the show back, hey, give me a call. I would love to be in that writer's room and pitch some shit. I pitch some ideas. But shit, there's plenty of shit.
I think what did work, especially when they were saying that stuff back in the day, with it was the idea that it was clear that it wasn't the writers.
Yeah.
Was his issue, his problem. So
Mhm.
it can work. Of course, there's ways you can navigate that and do that, especially now when you have so many outwardly, openly gay creators and people in the hip hop game and everything else. This and performers, so it's kind of like it's a much bigger thing.
Yeah.
I'm sure Riley would pop off about them now, but
If they got away with Uncle Ruckus being openly racist in every episode, they could figure
yeah,
out a way to
yeah,
characterize that too.
But I think
Uh,
that's something that
that's
even Dave Chappelle
different.
talked about though, where it's like when he was doing the Chappelle show, he said, "Oh, I can say the N word on TV, but there's certain jokes they won't let me say because of the network stuff." But to your point, I think the way they get around that, and one is to your point, understanding that these are extreme caricatures of people, and these aren't the beliefs of the writers, and these are beliefs that aren't okay. And I think that's part of the reason too. Is as far as Riley goes, he would say that stuff, then he would either get like instant karma right away, showing that this isn't the thing to do, or it would just showcase how stupid he looked. What I think they could do to get away with a lot of that stuff and also like expand on it is to actually get like some of these gay comedians or actors or artists to come be a part of these episodes and like help them get into these jokes or whatever it may be. So it doesn't seem like we're laughing at you, but they're laughing with you and understanding how absurd a lot of the ways Black people think still. Because even to this day, there's still plenty of like, for whatever reason, if sometimes it feels like it's gotten worse. It feels like the homophobia in the Black community somehow got a little worse over time as like more and more people are comfortable with like saying that they're gay. Like we've gotten even more like damn near aggressive with that whole aspect of like, I ain't with that gay shit.
Yeah,
So like
it's getting
trying
more.
to yeah, commentating on that is
It,
just I think it's needed to I think it's honestly needed. I think it's needed to just like point the finger at how stupid certain things are, especially in the medium of something that people respect.
yeah. Well, plus there's it's again it's more out there now. The community, the LGBTQ plus community is obviously more prominent now than it was even in 2014 when season 4 was
Hmm.
out. So if you have it, I mean, there's actually people in that community. Of course, we expect them to have more rights. We expect them to be represented better in media, whether it be an animated series or whatnot. So there is more of a responsibility to at least try to treat them with respect, as
Hmm.
opposed to just making them a punchline. You know what I
hmm.
mean?
I think that's if they were to bring the show back, that'd be a big challenge to figure out like what do you even tackle? Because
Yeah.
again, just in the 5 years alone, there's been so much shit that's happened, and still so much shit that's continuing to happen that you could point to from like the Young Thug Rico case and snitching. Well, you could probably get into the snitching thing again, but I think they already did an episode there with the whole thing with the versus battles, with the men versus women shit, the red pills. There's like so many different things you can play around
Code
with.
Red Bull. Yeah,
COVID.
Manosphere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like where do you begin? Like where do you start to make fun of shit? And I think that's another reason why I'm so like I'm so with the idea of them bringing the show back if they can all get over those those differences they had in the past because you have gold that's just sitting here ready
Yeah.
for you to fucking commentate on.
Yeah.
Especially knowing like I don't know how familiar you guys are with JD Witherspoon, John's son. And like some of his content, but like he'll like because people will ask him to do impressions of his dad all the time on his streams or his channel, and the nigga sounds just like his dad. Like he
Uh-huh.
has the mannerisms, the like he sounds just like him. So I feel like if you don't want to go the route of killing him off and going the Black Panther route and just like giving him a peaceful death, because I remember I heard like the idea of a script that got floated around or a possible thing of like having granddad pass away and then bringing in oh my god, I'm blanking on her name. She played the mother in Blackish.
Oh,
You know what I'm talking
yeah,
about?
but yeah, it's what's her name?
I'm
Diane, what's her face's daughter? Diana Ross's daughter. Something
gonna
wrong.
look it up real quick. I'm gonna look this up real
Something. I
quick
know
because
her last
I
name is
don't want to be
wrong.
disrespectful to her name because she's been in a million fucking things.
Wait, what's
Not
the what
Tracy
Diane?
Ellis Ross. You're talking about
Jennifer Lewis. Jennifer Lewis.
the mom. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Jennifer Lewis. Yeah,
You
they
said the
had the
mom in
idea of like
Blackish?
The
yeah,
grandmother.
she's the
Oh, the
grandmother, not the mother.
grandmother in
I'm sorry.
Blackish.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
grandmother. I'm sorry. I heard the idea of like them bringing her in to be like granddad's like sister and like her taking in the boys or whatever else, and that's how they continue the show on. But again,
I see.
I don't know how serious all those talks got. I think those are just different things that got pitched at a certain point. But that's
Yeah.
something I'd be on board for. They wanted to go that route, or if they just wanted to bring in JD to be his dad to fulfill that role or whatever it may be. 'Cause I think even he's
Yeah.
talked about in interviews where at one point they invited him back to interview for the role and like before the fourth season started or maybe after the fact. I don't remember, but they went another route. I don't know if that was an issue with like McGruder wanting that or Carl wanting that or them one of those two not wanting it. It felt like they were still like button heads at that point in time, and it just never got off the ground because they couldn't come to a conclusion on how to proceed with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it would be interesting. It may even work as just a movie. It would be interesting to see their takes on, like you said, the last 5 years in particular. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. I know I've told you all about this. I'll tell it real quick to the audience. If y'all get a chance to go back and watch the Boondocks, there's an episode called The S Word, and there's a reporter that is interviewing a teacher about how he called Riley called Riley the N word, and it's
Oh
directly based
God.
off of a real life situation, a real life event where a teacher did in fact say that. This is in Ohio. A teacher did in fact say that to one of his students. He told them to sit down, nigga, and the actual and my sister, my real life sister, actually interviewed this teacher about this. And when the video went viral, this is forever ago, when before viral videos even really a thing, the video went viral. Her interview went viral, and the idea was to simply how like they were trying to keep up with um, weird things that were happening in the community, weird things that are happening, as far as are involving us. So I can only imagine the overwhelming field day they could have with so many things have gotten crazier, so much crazier. So I can only imagine what they would do now.
You get into international issues. You can get into that. You can niche down into like nerd spaces. And there's so
Yeah,
much. They have enough material for at least like 4 more seasons. I'm not gonna hold you. And then each
probably.
season could be like 20 episodes if need be, because there's so much that you can hit on.
Yeah.
Yeah, only more to be added.
Your current presidency, yeah. Agent Orange is going crazy right now, ain't he?
Agent Orange.
That's what I call that nigga.
Yeah, he on another level right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. I'm trying to think. Have we covered? I think we've covered just about damn near everything with this show, from the music to the writing. I guess we could kind of speak on the voice acting a little bit more. I think we haven't really like doubled down on how talented of a cast this was. Obviously, there's the big three, or the big two that you can talk about in regards to Regina King and John Witherspoon, them being like probably the more iconic and lead characters of the show. The fact that Regina King was able to, because again, I've been like practicing and playing around a little more with like voice acting, and one of the more difficult things you have is to be a distinct character. And in a lot of different occasions, you'll have certain people, like I think Yuri Werenthal talks about this a lot, where like for certain characters, it'll just be his voice or just him, and he'll maybe like pitch something up a little bit higher or lower, or he'll just add a certain mannerism to his voice. But for Regina King with this, it felt like you would not recognize her fucking voice if I didn't know. Like if she didn't say that was her, I would never have known that was her. Because she had like two very drastically different voices that are different from our own, with two different personalities that are. I think she maybe talked about in an interview. There's like just a little bit of her in both of them, but again, her being two little boys that are very different from one another, and then seeing her in the booth being able to go back and forth between those two characters' voices and personalities, I'm like, but my brain would fucking fry trying to keep up with that in the booth, actively recording that.
Yeah.
And
Well,
just
part
the
of it too
talent
is
she has is crazy.
yeah, because it also it doesn't quite even sound like she's putting on her voice or doing a voice. It's similar to
Yes.
like Kevin Conroy back in the day when he was in the later years as he was doing Batman. He wasn't really putting on a voice. He was almost just like talking in his own voice, but it still sounded different in a way. The same way
Mhm.
with the Virginia King. She's clearly just in a way almost. She's not really putting on a character as she does Huey, but you can definitely tell it's not just her actual talking. Same with Riley. Riley sounds so different, but it's still in a way it is her voice. So that level of like that level of talent. Plus Regina King, I don't even know she does that much voice acting. I know she's mainly an actor, a live action actor. So for her to pull off that is like it's wild. Same with John Witherspoon. He wasn't really doing a lot of like voice acting as much. Charlie Murphy, Sam Jackson does some voice acting, obviously. But Cedric Yarbrough, and again Gary Anthony Williams, who did Uncle Ruckus. These people aren't necessarily known for doing that much voice acting, yet they somehow got them all together and they crushed it. Also, Onceler, Ed Asner. Ed Asner, who did Onceler,
Mhm.
he did a great job too. So
And they have some like actual voice acting royalty here, with like Tara Strong being in the show at a certain point. Dante Basco, the guy who plays Zuko, is in the
yeah,
show. They have
Mhm.
Mark Hamill made an appearance at one point. I can't remember
Mhm.
who he played, but like, you have Mark Hamill in there. So you have a combination of like legendary voice actors and people that seemingly you don't see them voice act too much, but they're still able to put on legendary performances for the most part. Like
yeah,
I can't think of any other voice acting role that John Witherspoon really had outside of this.
can't either. It wasn't Gabrielle Union. Gabrielle Union was in one episode. She was like a She was
I
basically trying to
believe
date
so.
yeah, she was trying to Uncle Ruckus was trying to date her, and she was like, because she was like way too hot and young, and he was like, "What's going on here?" I think it was Gabrielle Union that did that. So I mean, they have all kinds of
like Snoop Dogg, uh, Busta Rhymes,
50
Busta
Cent,
Rhymes.
Lil Wayne.
Most Def.
Oh yeah, most
Yeah.
definitely, yeah. And he actually has done some voice acting too, though. But yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah,
Like,
Michael B. Jordan here. Some of these other names, I'm looking at other names here too. Michelle Morgan. Yeah, bro, the cast is fucking stacked. It was so stacked.
what's her name from Archer? That was Lana's voice.
Oh,
She was the-
Aisha Taylor.
yeah, I said she was
She
killing
clearly has a
Uncle
background
Ruckus.
in yeah.
But still, like being able to get all of these different people to do all these performances and still having one contained experience that, like, kind of encapsulates the Black experience. It pulls elements from the nerd experience with all the anime influences into it. Like, there's no reason why the kickball episode should have looked as crazy as it did. They're playing kickball and it looks like, a One Piece battle.
The shooting exams. So like a Hunter
Yeah.
Hunter exams.
Yeah, that's one. By the way, I misspoke. It's Aisha Tyler, not Taylor. But that's one
Tyler,
we didn't talk about as much. It's like literally the animation itself looked like anime. It looked like the quality. It was very, very peak. It was peak. It still holds up now. So that was a big thing. Like I said, it clearly I love when I talked to Carl. He made it clear how much he was a hardcore Blur back in the day before Blurs were even really known. And so they made the show look like an anime for the most part.
Like, I will never forget the first Stinkmeaner episode where he's having the dream of a Zatoichi and he thinks Stinkmeaner is a literal like swordsman. That animation sequence was fucking ridiculous. And then the fact that they chose to go with Guillotine, I think is the name of the song. It was on the Raekwon. I think it was off the Raekwon album. It was like Raekwon, Inspector Deck, and I think Method Man was on that song. I listen to this shit all the time. I'm trying to remember but like the fact they chose to have Wu-Tang be like the soundtracks for those, for instance, like that, and then they had that animation there. Like, it was that shit. It's that, and again, to your point, that animation still holds up.
It's attention to detail, man. The intentionality behind knowing where the story is going, and having that align with the animation, with the music, with the voice acting, like to really create a aura, a scene, an atmosphere. You don't really get that in too many series.
And they do a good job of balancing the humor with like the seriousness of things. Like, again, to that specific scene, you can go through all that serious shit and like the fear Huey has with the Zatoichi, and then you have fucking Stinkmeaner. What's good, nigga? What's real? Like, it's effortless. Like the way they're just like swerving in and out of the lane of comedy versus like being a storyteller versus informing on politics. Again, the writing is fucking beautiful. It's beautiful. It's beautifully well done.
It's really good.
It's shit I guess somebody who wants to be an aspiring writer now, it's shit I gush over when I'm looking at like how I'm writing certain things. And I haven't even like taken a stab at doing comedy at all. That's some shit that I don't even know how to pull off in the right way yet. I think that's something that like you either have the feel for it early on, or you take years to master that kind of a craft, to where you're just able to weave comedy and your messaging in and out seamlessly.
That's what it boils down to, is if you do actually have a message, if you actually have something to say, being able just to convey that to other people, where in the way that it is, like you said, again, that it's digestible, it's palatable to any audience, essentially. I mean, pretty much anybody can watch an episode of Boondocks and get something from it. Of course, there are different layers, there are different things that different people get from it, but there's something there for everybody because it is accessible. It is interesting. Another one of my favorite episodes, honestly, was actually an episode that was just when Huey and Riley, and they went back to their old hometown, and Huey's friends kind of were dogging him out because, like, yo, man, they're basically calling him like a sellout because he went to like the suburbs of another area, and the idea, I think his name was like what's the name? Coco or something? What's the name?
He said Huey. I can't remember the sequence. I'm trying to remember the buddy's name.
He can't remember his name now, but that his friend that he had was like, Huey was trying to be friends with him.
I think it was Cairo. I think, wasn't it?
Cairo,
Cairo,
right. And that's one of those things too, where it happens in real life. I've been there myself, where friendships, you want them to stay together. You want to ask people to understand where you're going or what's happening, and they can't go with you. It's just like, yeah, we can't. We're too different now. And that alone regardless of race or whatnot, it's just a very poignant episode as far as it's as people grow, sometimes they grow apart, and it hit me. So
And that same episode, looking at the friendship between Granddad and his homeboy, the pilot, and that being the whole thing where like,
yeah,
he pisses me off, but I still love him though. He's an asshole, but
that was a really good
that's my brother though.
really
That
good
I literally went to war with.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's again. I think we've pretty much spoken on everything for the most part. Is there anything else y'all wanna bring up real quick?
It's the oldest looking hard.
Yeah, he's intensely he's locked in on something right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, this has been another episode of the Then Podcast, y'all. If y'all have similar thoughts to us, or even other thoughts to add in regards to how the Boondocks impacted you, or how you feel like it impacted media or just the Black culture as a whole, y'all let us know in the comment section below. If you guys are interested in more of what we have to offer and following us on any of our social media platforms, you can find that in the description below. And yeah, and we have each of our own separate platforms that you guys can find us on, that you'll probably find through the social media that we already have linked down there. But this has been Captain Diesel, Lelouch V, and Professor E, King of the Comics. And remember, forever and always. Oh, wait, I had to mute it.
You're listening to the Then and Now podcast.
We'll see y'all next time. Peace.
Preach.